Hi there and welcome back. Now today we're going to talk about one of our more interesting, or should I say infamous characters, Matteo Messina Denaro, the current boss of bosses of the Sicilian Mafia, a little bit more in depth. Now notably we're going to talk about his passion for art. Yep, high-end art. Now it may be strange to think of art as an object of desire for criminals, but that's exactly how it is. In fact, the illegal trade and smuggling of great pieces of artwork is amongst the most profitable markets linked to the Mafia, second only to drug trafficking and international fraud. And this is because ancient and modern works by famous artists are worth millions of euros. They're highly sought after by wealthy patrons and represent the prestige of those who own them. Moreover, they can be used as a bargaining chip to blackmail and pressure the state. And of course, just a great way to launder dirty money. Now, numerous bosses have approached art for the great potential that it holds in the acquisition of power, both inside and outside of criminal groups. But Matteo Messina Denaro was actually a true enthusiast. His was a family hobby, inherited from his father, which led him to be involved in many famous thefts of Italian cultural heritage. Francesco Messina Denaro, also known as Don Ciccio, was a mafioso linked to Cosa Nostra and the head of the Castelvetrano gang during the 1980s. Father of Matteo Messina Denaro, he was a great lover of art and had transported this love of his into the world of crime, starting up a fruitful and of course very illegal trade in works of art and archaeological finds. Now in particular, he'd become interested in the illegal excavations in Selinunte, an important archaeological site in Sicily. And these operations were of course run by thieves at his command. His son Matteo would later inherit both the activity and the passion of his father, and would carry it on with commitment, earning enough to bring wealth to the family and finance his life in hiding. And as you all know from watching our other videos, Matteo loves his luxurious life, his cars, his women, and clearly now art. Basically, anything that money can buy. But the clandestine market for cultural heritage has always been very difficult to follow and infiltrate for the police because generally the bosses and their subordinates aren't personally interested in it. In fact, they rely on experts in the field, such as art dealers and university professors willing to be bribed and able to recognise the value of a work and make it sell well abroad. And this dense network and the illegal activities so well hidden and difficult to detect have benefited Matteo and many other bosses interested in these trades for many years. In fact, the fugitive wrote in a letter himself, "With the traffic of works of art, we can support our family." He was always ready to innovate as law enforcement increasingly challenged the more traditional activities of the Sicilian Mafia. The risks involved in trading in illegal art are minimal and the profits very high. Suffice to say that the international traffic in works of art is worth around 20 billion euros. Moreover, it's an easy way to recycle dirty money and to carry out exchanges of all kinds. And these are the fundamental points that allow the mafia bosses to solidify their power. And amongst the specialists in the art sector affiliated with the Messina Denaro family, it's worth mentioning the international art dealer Giovanni Franco Battina. Originally from Castelvetrano, and that's the same place where Matteo's family was dominant for decades, and linked to the family of the area, he's become rich over the course of 30 years thanks to the theft of archaeological finds made for Messina Denaro and the illicit trafficking of works of art. In 2011, the Rome Tribunal found Battina guilty of trafficking important art pieces. In fact, the dealer had been accused several times before for illegal possession of works of historical and artistic interest. And during the investigations of the state, 5 warehouses full of archaeological finds from clandestine excavations ready to be put on the international market were discovered in Basel in Switzerland. Marking the beginning of his criminal career in the art sector of the Messina Denaro family was one of the most important finds in the archaeological area of Castelvetrano, the Efebo of Selinunte. And this small statue from the 5th century was discovered by a stroke of luck at the end of the 19th century by a young shepherd who was just 9 years old. The bronze work was kept in a clay sarcophagus and was broken in several parts. Bought by the city of Castelvetrano, initially its value wasn't recognised. It was only in 1928 it was restored and studied by art experts, and then its true value realised. And after being exhibited at the National Archaeological Museum of Palermo, it was returned to the city of Castelvetrano, which placed it in Palazzo Pignatelli near the mayor's office. So the statue spent almost 30 happy, uneventful years on this site. But in 1962, something rather unpredictable happened. The Mafia became interested in this find and decided to steal it in the night of the 30th of October. The Efebo or Selinunte disappeared for 6 years, and in this period it was transported through a circuitous journey from Switzerland and eventually to America. The mafiosi, in fact, had the intention to sell the valuable and ancient bronze to foreign collectors. But, however, it wasn't sold, and in the end, criminals asked for a ransom of around 30 million lira from the city of Castelvetrano, who then refused to pay. The state at that point decided to secure the help of experts in the recovery of the artwork, and finally, the Efebo was returned to the hands of the authorities after a shootout with several criminals. But what does the Messina Denaro family have to do with the tormented history of that ancient statue? Francesco, as we mentioned earlier, had some experience with archaeology and art, and justice informant Angelo Cino recounts his role in the theft and what it represented within his mafia career. In his words, at the beginning of his splendid career, Matteo Messina Denaro's father had to deal with the question of the famous Selinuntine Efebe. And from that moment on, they understood that this niche was profitable. It was very important, and from then on, they always dealt with archaeological finds and art. So if the father, Messina Denaro, had an important role in the disappearance of the Efebe, his son Matteo was not to be outdone, because not everyone knows that it was he who ordered the theft of the dancing satyr. This bronze statue from the Hellenistic period was found by a fishing boat from Mazzaro del Vallo in 1997. Now the fugitive wanted it badly and wanted to sell it abroad through his Swiss channels. Now the value of this artwork was in fact incalculable, and it was clearly at huge risk of theft. Fortunately, the job was never completed because the bosses Giacomo and Tommaso Amato involved in the operation were arrested before it could happen. To relate the details of the attempted theft, the informant Concetto Mariano said, "In our world it was called the pupo, which means child in Italian. We were told that it had a commercial value that was very significant, that each of the participants, once securing the job, would make up to 200 million lira each. I was told that Matteo Messina Denaro was in charge of this operation, and he would have taken care of it through his channels to have the dancing satyr replaced." Mariano then explains how things went. "I realised that there were no more than 3 traffic wardens left to guard the artwork, so it wasn't difficult to get in and take it. However, once we were almost ready, we had to give up the plan because we realised that people were passing by, so once we were inside, we would no longer have control of the situation, and someone could have noticed and raised the alarm." There was a second attempt, but this too failed, and when the satyr was moved, Messina Denaro's dream of stealing it vanished. So Matteo Messina Denaro was able to unite the passion inherited from his father for art and culture with his desire to build wealth and obtain power. His idea of using the stolen works as blackmail potential against the state in order to obtain favours and silences worked so well that art soon became, for the Mafia, a precious and very useful currency to achieve its own illicit purposes. So there you are, another interesting angle on the Messina Denaro family and the Mafia's interest in priceless works of art. Fascinating that art's appeal is universal, but for so many diverse reasons. For many it's purely aesthetic, but for others it's purely financial. And for some, of course, it's both. So we hope you enjoyed this video, lots more coming soon, so do keep tuned. And if you haven't already, why not click on that subscribe button and do spread the word about us online. It's very much appreciated. So until next time, ciao.